Greetings and welcome. My name is Jake Rayson. I am a wildlife and food forest garden designer, and today it is time to start the tour of garden wildflowers. I'm going to be talking about Yarrow, which is called Achillea millefolium. Very quick bit of background. It's winter time here in the UK. I'm busy creating these classes, wild edible classes, online classes. So I'm working a lot indoors. It's wet and miserable and windy outside. So I just wanted to get a bit of flowers in too. Some more flowers. And this is part of Garden Wild, is the community interest company that I've set up to promote climate resilience with wildlife food forest gardens, and a big part of that is to go through like native wildflowers. And there is a spreadsheet that you can, I'll put in a link to the notes in as well. There's a Garden Wild spreadsheet, and this is my own kind of reference for about 100 native UK native wildflowers, and then it just gives a whole lot of information about them in there. And I'm really learning an awful lot myself. I'm kind of at the beginning of the journey, so to speak, and I really want to see UK native wildflowers being used ornamentally across the board, and also in forest gardens, and also in allotments and other and kitchen gardens as well, because there's lots of reasons to do that. Okay, so just a quick look at the references. So what I've got here, there's Plants for a Future, which is, I'll put a link to, brilliant website, database, and it lets you know all kind of the basic information about a plant, but also how it's used as well. So this is Yarrow. Yarrow is also called knitbone. What else is it? It's got there's lots of kind of information here, but there are medicinal uses for large, like the majority of native plants. There are medicinal uses or edible uses, and so it's a fantastic resource, Plants for Future, to have a look at that. I think and it's interesting because there's such a great big overlap between gardening and forest gardening, edible gardening, and foraging as well, and the whole kind of wildlife aspect of it. So there's just so much to learn from everybody about everything, but it's great to see it all starting to come together and to pull together in a time of nature and climate emergency. It's really heartening to see it. So the other great resource is Plant Finder, and this is the Botanical Society of Britain and Ireland online atlas, and it's great, gives you distribution charts, more kind of botanical stuff, but that's brilliant as well. And then there's a good old RHS, still banging the old ornamental drum. But there we go. It is what it is. But they do have a rather nice, if a bit slow, database online. And as you can see, for Yarrow, there are a whole load of different native cultivars. And if you have, Yarrow is a native wildflower to the UK, but if you have a native wildflower and it's been cultivated, it's called a nativar. Is a bit of a slang term. So there's a lot of research done on. No, I'm not sure about Yarrow particularly, but a lot in America, and I'm aware of a few different studies of the wildlife suitability of nativars. And generally, I think the kind of findings are that they're not as good as the straight species, the unbred species. So generally, you're better off not using nativars. But having said that, a nativar is better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick or a non-native plant. So I've actually used them. I've used a dwarfing Achillea Yarrow, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, but they do get to about 40 how big, 45, 50, 60 centimeters, and they can get a bit floppy, not floppy, but they get a bit big. They're quite a big plant, and they do take up quite a big space. So I've used a dwarfing cultivar of Yarrow in a small garden that I'm working on, so that I could get it in there. So they do have their uses, and if you're kind of mixing like I do, you're doing a lot of ornamental work, it's actually really good to have those options there. Then the other side is a brilliant resource is the database of insects and their food plants. And this is the page for Yarrow, and as you can see, there are loads. Let me just have a look at the spreadsheet, because I put all this information into the spreadsheet. There's 118 known associations between insects and Yarrow. So you got a really good plant, a really good wildlife plant. And I just think, yeah, there's an awful lot to be said for. It's a massive area, but there's an awful lot to be said for checking out database of insects and the food plants, and seeing how well used a plant is. And this is an awful lot of the kind of really important part, is what eats the plant as well. So here we've got Coleoptera, which is beetles, Diptera, which is flies, Hemiptera, which I don't know, and you've got Lepidoptera, which is butterflies and moths, and Thysanoptera. I don't even know what they are, and it's just amazing. There is all this knowledge out there, which is just absolutely incredible. So do check that out too. All right, so there we go. So Yarrow, let's get onto some photographs and make this full screen. Can you go full screen? Yes, there we go. So I love Yarrow. I really love it. It is such a beautiful plant. And it's really robust, and you will find it growing kind of all over the place. Actually, there's I'm just trying to think locally. There are some on a playing field, and it's I've got to check the conditions for it. Actually, I found it in more kind of dry and moist conditions. It says for Achillea millefolium. I found it in kind of part shade or full sun. And I found it by slightly damper places rather than totally dry places. But having said that, it really depends on the situation that you've got it in. We've got a Yarrow, like which is a native Yarrow, which is self-sown, and it's right by the front door in a crack, and it's grown in a crack in the concrete. And how did that happen? But yes, they are great. They're really sturdy plants as well once they're established, and they kind of will fill up an area too. So you've got to be aware of that when you're using them, that they're quite robust plants, but they are brilliant. They are really quite beautiful. And this is a flower head of it. So all these photographs come from Commons Wikimedia, which I will go through, and a close up of the flower, and just there's like a load of botanical just detail in there, which is fantastic. A botanical drawing of it, so you can see the kind of the shape and the form of it, and then there should be a scan of it as well. And they've got these beautiful kind of feathery leaves too, but they are really pretty. They do stand up, even though they're quite tall. They will maintain their shape. I mean, there's some plants like sedums or a whole load of quite tall plants that tend to flop, whereas I found Yarrow are quite upright. And there's the close-up of the foliage, and then you can see some Yarrow in situ in a field. And those are the seed heads, and I've kept the seed heads on the one out the front of the house. I've just kept them there because they're so lovely. And then there's a crab spider and a little fly of some description down there, hiding. Crab spiders hide the same colour of the flower, and they just remain perfectly still, and then zap the pollinator and eat it. There we go. Fantastic. So there we go. So I hope that's useful. Just a kind of quick tour, and I will just kind of show you the Commons Wikimedia, just show you how to use that. If you search for Achillea millefolium, what I do like to do as well is to use, I put the common name down, but I will also always try to use the botanical name, just because you'll get a closer reference. And you can see, just like, look at all that stunning photographs, and they're all kind of open license as well. That's Commons, Wikimedia Commons. Okay, so I hope you like that, and I'll be doing one of these every few days or so, and I'll just be working my way through a list of 100 UK native wildflowers. So thank you very much for watching. Catch you again soon. Thank you. Bye. There we go.